Spook,
Yes.
you look thirsty.
Oh, what do you suggest?
Have you tried one of the Chiefs' Gabina and soda,
You
blood
mean
orange?
This blood orange Cabina and soda, Rakia.
Lakia.
Rakia.
Lakia.
What?
Lakia.
What's wrong with you?
Lakia. Say it like a wog.
Rakia.
How about taking the drink instead?
Let's take a drink. You know what? Normally when Carlton lose, I like to drink their tears. But today I think I'll make an exception for this delightful ouzo and blood orange Rakia. Oh, can you taste the freshness? Cheers.
Cheers. It's going to go down too easy.
All jokes aside, it is very nice.
Yeah.
If you want to support the Chief's been on the Rant a few times over the journey. It's his new business venture over here, making posters.
And you can find it in most liquor stores.
You can go to cabinadistilling.com and you tell him that Sly and Spook sent you.
That'll get you nothing.
No, got us nothing.
But just tell him.
But tell him anyway. I think he'd love to hear from you and buy his product. It is very nice.
All right, let's just jump in.
How's it pronounced? Rakia?
Lakia.
Rakia. Is it Klingon?
No.
Is it a Klingon aphrodisiac?
Oh, yes, teaser's gone too long. Welcome to the Collingwood Rant on Sly.
And I'm still laughing at Carlton Spook.
I thought you were going to be the Kia Spook.
I'm Rakia Spook. Is that like Raquel Welch?
No.
Do I need to? Because you can be a man and have tits these days. Can we get away with that?
I'm not going to make any comment there.
Are we pushing the envelope?
We're pushing the envelope. We use the word wog.
Oh. Yeah, but wogs are just part of everyday life.
I try to be.
Well, they used to be. Are you a wog? You never told me.
GWS's banner. Your emblem's a bird. Your coach is called Fly. When asked to travel, you have a big cry.
What a try-hard banner was that? I mean, it's not even funny. I think if you need to be funny, you need to be at least clever and humorous.
Did we cry about travelling?
No, but that's the stupid part of it all. I don't think we're happy to travel.
Yeah.
We obviously wouldn't be happy to travel 20 times a year, but we tend to win when we go interstate. So why would that make us upset?
I think if we bitched about anything, it was that stupid round zero concept, which now everyone's bitching about.
Do you think did GWS watch this and think are they having a crack at us? Because you know what else is orange?
What?
The blood orange in Rakia.
What's the GWS stand for?
Greater Wankers of Sydney.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
They
just put that on their banner.
They should put it on their Guernsey instead of having a...
I mentioned how nice this is.
It is. Instead of having a G for a logo, just have a big wank. Oscar Steene talking about big wanks. Seamless. It's like poetry.
What a debut. Did you know that he had that in him?
No.
Do you know what I've heard, though, the reason why he played so well? He was into the Chiefs' Rakia. That too.
So, to qualify it a little bit, he was against the relatively inexperienced GWS ruckman also. But, fucking hell. I mean, I watched that and thought, can you erase Cameron's signature on that 4-year deal?
I don't think Cameron's going to be rucking first all that much.
But
if he keeps this up, I mean, it's only one game. One game a swallow summer does not make.
Yeah, but in one game, so many games has Cameron played? About 120 or whatever. I don't know.
Can you name them?
Yeah, grand final. But in those games that Cameron's played, I don't think I've ever seen him jump up the way Steene did and do that little tap over his head to Nick Daicos.
You know, this is the first time I've seen a Collingwood player wear a red cape.
Yeah, but this works on a different level. So one,
he was at a different level.
He's a much better fucking ruckman than Cameron. So I've been bitching about Cameron's rucking for years. He's a much better ruckman. So it actually makes a bit of a farce of how do you play Cameron now? Because he's already getting squeezed out of the position you've signed him for. 2, how much did Steene's game energise the team?
Certainly energised the midfield.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like running into space and someone taps the ball to you? And then what happens next? You clear the centre square.
We look at the times we did actually have clearances like that.
Very clean,
first use
very
of
clean ones. I mean, look, you've got to put it into context, as you said, with the opposition, because GWS are a bit average. But it was a good start. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, but it is a great start. And, we've said this. I've said this before.
We'll say it again, damn it.
I would not have signed Cameron. I would have traded him out to one of the WA teams if they could manage it. I would have gotten as much as you could for him. I would have kept Cox for another year. I would have played Cox and then Steene. And then with the plan of hopefully Steene would succeed him. Again, Steene's a young kid. We don't know if he'll last the year. We don't even know if he'll last half the year. And when he faces, a lot stronger ruckman, a lot more experienced ruckman, he's going to struggle. Which is why I would have had Mason Cox, because Cameron's just not a good ruckman.
No, and I think I was on the footy show today. They highlighted a couple of hit-outs from both and highlighted the differences with it. That Steene's all about the vertical leap and the wonderful palm delivery, and Cox. Cameron pretty much just grounded and jostled for position, and he did get a couple of clearances from doing that, which is obviously where his strength in that area lies. But he ain't jumping up in the air anymore.
Well, I can't remember. I think last year he ended up like 9th in taps to advantage, which is just for a team that's top 4, which is what we were. Imagine how much better it would have been if he was a much better ruckman.
Do you know in that stat they included some of the taps in the men's bathroom?
That's a really bad one.
Do you know what's not bad, though?
Yeah. But you look at like the way we've had to have a defensive midfield because we just don't get first use of the ball too often. And then you're putting Nick under pressure and the like because they're having to be conscious of losing the tap. It reminds me of when Darren Jolie came to Collingwood in 2010. About halfway through the year, because the first third of the year, there wasn't great synergy between him and the mids. And we had a pretty good midfield with, Swan and Pendles and Daisy and
okay. And nothing to write home about, but okay.
But in terms of the way they rove to Jolie said in some article, I can't remember where it was, but he just said he had to teach the players to crumb or to rove to a winning ruck because for years they've just been roving defensively because their rucks have just been losing tap-outs. Yeah. And that's what it feels like with Cameron. You're not getting first use of it. When he's getting rated like 9th or whatever it was for tap-outs, for hits to advantage, that's not the return you want from a team that's aspiring to be a contender. Unless you have this really shit-hot midfield that can compensate. And we don't. We haven't. I mean, Nick aside, and Degoe, has been injured a lot of last year, and obviously Pendles and Sidebottom are in their 40s. And then McCreary sometimes gets the ball and sometimes doesn't. Mm. It's not really a white-collar midfield. It's very blue-collar once you move away from Nick. But the debut of Steene, it also made me think, geez, imagine you went this route in 2024 and you saved the draft pick and maybe used it on a top 10 prospect that we could be getting excited about. Imagine you did that and rebuilt on the run rather than picking up. I'll actually put this one to you first. What do you think of Dan Houston's game?
See, the funny thing is I was out on Friday night at a family dinner, so I really didn't get to see. Sorry?
You had some rakia?
I was having some rakia. So I didn't see the game live. I watched the replay, obviously. And I think when you watch the replay and you won, a lot of the motion is taken out of the game. Because I did see messages. It was emotion in motion. I did see a number of texts from you bagging the crap out of Houston and then you bagged the crap out of Houston again. I looked at the game and there was a couple of cock-ups, but I didn't think overall it was that bad.
He was so bad.
But I'm taking the emotion out of that statement.
He was so bad that he'll get votes at GWS as best and fairest.
Yeah.
He was terrible.
I did see a couple of turnovers.
He had one good kick. He had that really one where he just basically dropped the ball at half back. I think his form this year, like people go, they've unlocked the Port Adelaide Houston. It's like, I don't think they have. He's been better than he was last year, but bowel movements are better than he was last year.
He was at 87% kicking efficiency. You sure you didn't just imagine this?
But the thing too, you got to factor in, he's doing a lot of the kick-outs. A lot of times he's just kicking to someone in the pocket. He had one really good pass that was incisive and went long, but I actually disposal efficiency we've talked about before. I don't know how they rate that because I don't know. I thought his game was really, really poor. I think his year's just been a little bit above average outside of this game.
So you hate him?
I don't think he brings much. I think he's a major fuck up in getting him down to the club when you got all these other guys on playing that role like Josh and all that. I mean, we talked about it last year.
I mean, the thing is, like, even with the kick end duties, they're alternating between him and Josh. And the things that he's doing, Josh is doing as well. It's like you're having 50-50 each way bets on covering that particular role. You know, it's like if Houston was injured tomorrow, Josh just steps up and plays that role beautifully. Presumably, the reverse of that is if Josh has moved elsewhere or Josh is injured, then they expected him to then fulfill that role. But I think the first couple of games of his was a hell of a lot more encouraging than the last.
I agree. It's a lot more encouraging. But
things I didn't see it as. I don't remember shaking my fist at the TV, thinking, "Oh, Houston has done it again."
Well, you couldn't shake your fist at the TV. You had a beer in it. You'd just be going. Spilling it everywhere.
As I said, I think watching the replay when you know you won is you just tend to get distracted easy and you watch and you don't get too emotionally invested like you're watching live because you don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. It's just a different ball game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. It's just I hope he becomes the elite player he's meant to be. I think there's at times he doesn't attack contests the way you want him to attack contests. He just seems like he's waiting for things to happen around him. I don't know, maybe that's a byproduct of the way he played at Port, where he was fed the ball and he could just do whatever he wants. And he doesn't want to go when it's his turn to go. And I said it, we have greater priorities than another halfback flanker. So I'm really just like, I thought that game was terrible. I thought who was great and pleasingly great was Sidebottom. I would have had him close to best on ground.
He was awesome. What did he finish with 31 possessions or something?
I'm too lazy. I got a drink in my hand. I shake my fist at.
I took a multi out on us, which I don't normally do, but I thought, well, if I'm away and I'm following the scores, it gives me some sort of vested interest to refresh that and see what's going. And I took him at 15 plus disposals, and that was paying reasonably well, all things considered, because like normally you would average 15 in the first half easily. And so I think, that's not a bad little get. And, sure enough, I think he was 15 by about half time. He just was unstoppable. He just wound back the clock, which was great to see. There's still life in the old dog yet. I think they,
as they can maintain. I mean, the first half of last year, he was pretty much all Australian. And then he just massively faded. But he showed a lot of, his experience and football intelligence. Nick Daicos, sort of, it was a good first half, but that second half he went to another level.
Yeah, no.
And the Goey decided to show up.
I again, frame the context. GWS were missing, was it 3 or 4 probably first starter players?
About a third.
They've had a number of newbies come in. I think they're always going to be up against it, which I think it amplifies our performance somewhat. Because I think what it actually reminded me of at the end of watching it was like, yeah, we beat up on a side that's probably weaker than us. And I think anyone that's around that mid-ladder position will probably do the same too. But I think we're going to have some rude awakening calls when it comes to the top 4 to top 6.
Well, we're going to see that next week, so that'll be an interesting test. Yeah, got better performance pretty much, got a much better spread. So they dropped Buller. Then the forward line looked a little bit better. Obviously, remember he kicked 4, he kicked 3 in one quarter.
McStay 1 or 2?
McStay kicked the 2.
Yeah.
So that worked a lot better. And then Steene dropped forward and took a mark in the goal scoring kick. Kicked 1 also.
Elliott 1. I think he managed to get into the game a little bit more visibly.
So the forwards worked a lot better. And I mean, the concern would be, again, the opposition dominated the forward 50 entries. They were inaccurate, so if they kick a little bit straighter, then it could have been a little bit of a worry. I did see Adam Kingsley's press conference, and he did say that, because they did ask him about the inaccuracy, he thought the inaccuracy was more byproduct of where they were taking shots from, but they were low percentage areas.
What were they in the change rooms?
Yeah, with the chief.
What are they doing in the change rooms with the chief?
I'm having some rakia.
Rakia. It's good.
Yeah, so he did talk about that, and he said he didn't believe the loss was a result of personnel. It was a result of symptom.
Personnel's for assholes.
So,
did he say that?
Not quite. But it was pleasing to sort of see us beat up on
a weaker child.
On a weaker team, because even though it was only a couple of goals sort of all the way and they got back to within a goal, when we needed to sort of put the foot down, we did. Now, it wasn't a smashing or anything, but there was concerns. You had Pendlebury go off with that Achilles tightness. Is that a concern, you think?
Although I've seen since that they scanned it and they said there was no tear or anything. It is just tightness. But he's 68 years old.
But is that the concern? Against Brisbane in the final last year, he went down in about 30 seconds.
And I think that Achilles is not going to get any better. Not under the conditions of playing football. He's going to be a week-to-week proposition. They're going to want to manage him to get to that tally, and then you might find that the writing's on the wall relatively quickly, not through any other reason that his leg's just not going to keep up with it anymore. Is it the same Achilles as the one that went in the final?
Oh, something else in the final, but McRae said that they wouldn't have played him this week anyway, in terms of being a short turnaround. It was like a 6-day turnaround, then it's a 5-day turnaround for the following week. But like my concern is that you start getting those old man injuries where the body just starts going, and there's just one niggle after another, whether they have to nurse him to that or even if he's going to get to that. Like if it was the same Achilles tear, that would be pretty much it.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah. I mean, how many games he got left to go to?
It's about 6, but he showed in the first quarter he was really good.
No, actually, I did think I was going to mention that. I thought he was good.
And you sort of quiet him down now. I don't know if that was the Achilles tightness. And on the flip side, you have Moore, who, I mean, I think they foxed whatever the injury was. They sent him back out there. Was that a concern for you?
Did you get he got a jab? He must have, because he was in that room and then they had the footage of him trying to kick. It looked like his ankle was coming on, like and even that kick that he fucked up during the game.
Well, I was going to say,
when you looked at the footage, the foot was still going like that, like it's been numbed, if you know what I mean, and you don't get that fluid kicking action because it's a burr or something behind the knee. That
I don't know. I mean,
it's causing him grief.
McRae was saying it's the same thing that took him out a couple of weeks ago, and.
What, like an Uber?
Yeah. And obviously they didn't think they could injure it worse by sending him out there. But again, another concern that you get this guy who's had, like, this year so far, he's had some leg issues. McRae talked about in the press conference how they were trying to get some minutes out of him. I think the implication was without Pendlebury there, you didn't want to be too down on the bench and rotations were going to struggle. So they sent Moore out there thinking, well, he's not going to get any worse than this. And if you can hold down that spot, then that's great. But this is the problem with an aging list. When you get older players, bodies start whenever. And we don't know when it's going to be.
Well, he's out now for 3 to 4
if that's accurate.
Well, that's 3 to 4 with a hamstring. Collingwood is generally measured in months.
10 weeks, yeah.
So
you go back to Nathan Buckley when he won the Brownlow in 203. You would have thought this guy's on top of the world. In 04-05, he barely played. He had hamstring issues. And 06 was his last full year. And in 07, he missed the bulk of the year with hamstring issues again. So at that age, things can just go suddenly. Now, obviously, there's always freaks like Pendles who have gone a lot longer, but I'd be worried about someone like Moore.
Moore has had leg issues all the way through his career.
And I'd be worried about someone that size with that playing profile where he's charging out of defence, whether there's going to be leg issues. The defensive six, it's held up really well. Frampton really needs a mention too because
he's been fantastic
for Hogan. Took us some marks too, which was really good. Like that's what I really want to see Frampton do more of, like just back himself to take a few marks.
He smacked Hogan around a couple of times too.
Yeah, and you can see he's got a bit of mungle. There's that one time he turned around, he put a forearm into someone. I was like, don't fucking hit me. Who the fuck do you think you are? I'm the Frampchise. So
the Frampot.
Yeah, so he was great. But on the back end of that, like if you take more out, who comes in this week? That's
the big issue, isn't it? You're going to have to, I mean, Cochrane's in favour as an up-and-coming defender. Look, I didn't mind. I watched a bit of the VFL game. That Jath at times looks good, but he seems a little bit too...
Is he too small, though?
Timid, I think, he's maybe not going to be that effective until he puts some bulk on and can relish the contest a little bit better. There's not a lot back there. Actually, I'll tell you who I really liked. I think you liked him too. The Bolfo that's running around the VFL.
Yeah.
He's a big unit. He hits blokes hard. He runs hard.
Yeah.
I think if we didn't seriously look at elevating him, can we take him in the mid-season if no one gives a fuck?
And I think Turt's told us once that because it wasn't with him, but I think
I don't think we're taking Turts.
Yeah, but I think he was saying that because he's in our system, we get dibs on him.
Do we first dibs?
Yeah, but he I didn't see all of the VFL, but what I saw of it with him was this guy's given the best showing of any of the players.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought as well.
And he attacked the ball with gusto.
Who's he? Is he in the back pocket?
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Is he
much better than
another wog that drinks rugby?
Much better than someone like Houston. And if I saw it he was listed as a mid, so I think he was only about 189, 190, so he's not exactly a tall defender.
He looks bigger than he.
But he's a big guy, and he plays very physically, and obviously at that size and that weight profile, he's almost like a Mychek who could just come straight in. I'd love to, if he's available mid-season draft, I'd love to see them take him. Cochrane's obviously the other option. Reece McInnes played limited minutes.
Yeah, which I think wasn't. He had 7 or 8 possessions, and then they benched him for the rest of the game. The same with Harrison. I think he kicked a goal. And
Harrison did an ankle.
Did he?
Yeah, so he's out for 28 weeks. I don't know what the report was, but I think that's what they're saying. It wasn't serious.
Did I read somewhere it was how many days was for recovery for the ACL? 700 or something. It was literally 2 years
for Harrison.
Yeah, since he last played. 729 days or something.
Might
stupid.
Have been 700. Oh, but that would have been because they're counting the end of 24.
Yeah.
So.
But he was out for it. That was a long ACL recovery time.
From memory, did the ACL in the preseason of last year? So,
yeah, maybe he had some other issue. Unless they're just, as you said, counting senior games, they're not VFL.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is he obviously didn't play a senior game last year, so you have to go back to his last game in 24, and that would have been mid-year. Yeah. So if that's where they're counting from.
Who knows?
How, going forward, so where do we actually manufacture the talent to continue to compete? We've talked about probably finishing middling. The goalie was really good in the second half, and that shows again we get a quality midfielder to partner with Nick. Then we look suddenly a lot better, and Steene really appreciated that too.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't have to work as hard chasing the ball when it's just delivered straight to you.
But where do we go from here? I don't know what sort of people are hoping for this year. I mean, obviously we're all hoping for a flag, but I don't think most of us would believe that we have that profile, list profile.
I don't think you talk flags this year. You're going to see where we're at pretty clearly over the next few weeks against the better sides. So I think once you get hammered a little bit, you're going to be going, yeah, okay, well that's where we are.
I mean, we played Brisbane this week, and we do match up well against them for whatever reason.
I think they're gettable too with their injuries. They lost, was it Darcy Gardner, I think?
I got no idea.
Is he their ruckman or something?
I don't know.
Who is their ruck?
Don't know.
Is it Nankervis or something?
It's the Essendon guy, isn't it? Draper.
Oh, him. Isn't he injured? Is he playing?
I don't know. I
don't watch Brisbane games.
Watch Brisbane games. I was asking about Essendon games.
Yeah. I think they got 3 big names that are going to be out for this game. So, we can potentially get them. They had a good win this weekend. Against who they play? Can't remember who it was.
Saints.
Ah, fuck. Why would anyone barrack for the Saints? Seriously, is there a more disappointing club?
I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe Carlton's taken the mantle now.
Maybe ask Jack Silvani. Maybe enjoying the time up there, Jack.
What did he punch the ball or do something stupid?
I hate to see that. Yeah,
it
was ridiculous. I mean, someone handballed it to. I think it was handball.
He smashed it,
but he just sort of did a roundhouse, just punched it forward about 25 meters straight to an opponent.
Did he tell his teammates he got it over the volleyball net or something?
I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, I don't know if they're. I mean, that's the sort of McRae thing. Is just get the ball moving forward. But usually, it's when you can't take it, then you punch it.
He was on his own.
He's on his own. So it's why didn't you take it, or where to tackle and all that?
Maybe that's Saints culture. Maybe they like fisting things.
Also want to mention Ned Long. I thought that was his best game for quite a while.
Yeah, he was. I was going to say he's another one that was in my multi. I had him down just for 6 tackles, thinking he should do that, and he finished the game with 10. And I think that's what he's bringing. So, like, he only had about, I don't know, was it 12 possessions or something, 16?
Well, the thing I've mentioned is it really seems they've told him this year, handball as much as possible. We're not really kicking it.
But it's just that physicality he brings to those contests seems to be his one wood at the moment.
And that was his defence of Clayton Oliver.
Fuck! How was there anything in that?
I'm
sure it was like one of his arm hair bristled, and Oliver went down. It was like a weak fend.
Oh, I don't know. It looked like he connected the face. I think that's the issue. And this is coming after the Patrick Voss thing 2 weeks ago, where if you saw Eddie and people like that talking about Voss and Petty's interaction, I guess is the best way of putting it, where Voss was touching him on the top of their head, and Eddie and that was saying, well, that's the free. It's too high. That's what they should just pay to stop that from happening. So I think this year there was this week, there was a focus on if there's any incidental head contact, then we need to punish it, just to tell players, even as a taunt, you can't do this anymore. It's out. So I don't know, that's what I'm thinking.
What if you were in a brothel and there was incidental head contact?
Yeah, I'm not going there either.
That's not what I've heard. But dun.
Yeah, that's a shocker.
Well, no one ever promised they got better.
But, you know, you're talking about like sort of Brisbane's gettable, but we're probably going to struggle against the weaker sides. Oh, sorry, the better sides, not the weaker side. We'll struggle against the weaker sides too.
They've only won the one game, and the thing is, like, where I mean they're gettable is where we got them last year too, and we get them most times this year now, at this time of year, is they're very slow starters. And I think we take advantage of that. I mean, they certainly probably clean us up in the back end of the season when they're on their steamroll, but they're probably gettable from that perspective at the moment, in that they're still building.
But then what's the expectation for the season then? Because if we were to get beat then we're like 3-1 in the season.
I think we'll start well, and then probably have a chunk of losses, and then some of that's probably going to come down to.
Then what do we run out of the season?
I want to get development into some of the. Well, that's the problem. You know, Ed Allen, I don't think really did anything. He should go back to VFL, knowing that you've missed out, and set the world on fire. And I think he just played that loose, running around, disinterested.
He got like 27 possessions.
Did he?
Yeah,
that didn't really stand out.
No, they didn't. Like, I was watching, just like, this is a sort of real nothing game. He doesn't really take the game on in the way that you want to see him take the game on. He's not really a playmaker in the way you want to see him become a playmaker. So, I don't know. We keep talking about you got to play him in the middle, not on the fringes. But, geez, he's been underwhelming in his showings this year.
The one I thought looked all right-ish was Ryan in defence. Yeah. He finished, I think, with about 25 possessions, and he looked capable. You know, I guess at this, but the thing is, none of them are.
Well, should we bring Ryan up and move Houston out of his position?
Where?
We'll play Ryan in Houston's position.
Oh, so what? Have three of them run around doing the same thing? Yeah. Why not? Because the three tall forward line never works. So why don't we do three of the same in the back? Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I watched the VFL. Like, so I didn't see all of it, but it was far from.
The conditions there were putrid. Though you had the wind coming in at 900 kilometres an hour, going to the city end. And you know, as you know, being in that precinct recently, it's fucking windy in that area when it gets
it's horrible. Yeah, I know.
When it gets going. So you imagine playing. Like, there was one, I think I can't remember who it was, that took a shot on goal and the ball literally stopped. And I remember seeing that once when I went to a game at Williamstown and Dids was running around and he kicked into the wind and the friggin' thing just hovered in air and just span around and then started coming back out. It sort of reminded me of that down there, that clearly up that end, the non-scoring end, it was hard work just to get up there because you just could get no penetration with the kicking. But that doesn't excuse any of the performances. I think, you know, across the board, there was nothing that got you excited.
No, except for the Bolfo.
No, I think it's all about him now.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's the big problem. You watch other teams and you see these players coming up. I mean, like I said, with Steene, you watched him have a really good showing. Now, I'm not expecting that every week from him, but it just shows you, hey, we can move forward. There's players to come up. And we should have done this 3 years ago. We should have really focused on some of these players instead of trading away picks and bringing in guys we didn't really need.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's not about Schultz, but again, bringing him in and getting rid of Ginnivan. I mean, Ginnivan, who would you rate a better player right now? Ginnivan at Hawthorn or Schultz at Collingwood?
I think Schultz.
I mean, they're different sorts of players. But
Schultz is having more impact week to week. I don't watch a lot of Hawthorn games. I think Ginnivan has some nice performances, but they're few and far between.
I think with Schultz, I think they're pretty. If you look at his stats last year, when in the second half of the year, he was really good.
Schultz is having, but I think Schultz has more of an impact. He doesn't have as much of the ball, maybe, but I think you know where you're comfortable with what you're going to get from Schultz. He's going to hit contests pretty hard. He's going to kick one or two a game and run around and be an annoying little so-and-so. But he's not going to get any better than that, though, is he?
No, but I mean, the thing is, look, they're different players. So Schultz is more the tackling machine. That's not Ginnivan. Ginnivan's playing more and more up the field for Hawthorn. I think the last game they played, he had 2 touches to half time, and then he was moved up onto the wing and he got 20 touches in the second half, and he was instrumental in helping them win. So for me, it's like, well, I don't really think you traded in something we desperately needed, and you got rid of something you put time into, which, well, now, like, you're looking at, that would have been a pretty useful pick. You could have picked up Schultz on free agency anyway a year later.
I mean, we've talked about it numerous times, but I think some of the off-field discretions at the time had probably worn his value thin internally.
Yeah, but the thing is, too, it's like...
Not that I know that for a fact, I'm just guessing, but...
But the thing is, too, is like, at what point do you say, hey, this guy's redeemable and he'll wash out? Or... Yeah, but he's just to get like Didac and Heath Shaw and Dane Swan, just give him time to grow out of it, to mature.
Well, yeah, you could, but I think we saw 2 years of erratic off-field behaviour that maybe they thought, well, it couldn't be made any more plainer and simpler that this isn't acceptable, and there's not any evidence of seeing change. Maybe that broke the camel in the straw's back.
I think the biggest problem, like, I get rid of whoever you're going to get rid of, but it's just like, get fucking something for him. You got nothing for him.
No.
And that's the biggest problem.
No.
Any other thoughts about this game? I mean, it really was a fucking preseason game almost.
Yeah, there was not much intensity or anything in it. It was pretty flat. Like I said, even watching the replay again, you killed it because you knew the result. It really was hard for me to maintain focus on the game. You're watching it, but then look, suddenly this Flappy Bird thing is holding my attention, and you look up and you...
What's the Flappy Bird thing?
I don't know, something on the phone. Haven't you've seen a bird with flaps, haven't you?
No, you do need to verify your age now for those sort of things, don't you?
For Flappy Bird?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I look old enough. It's not the years, it's the mileage.
McCreery, careless contact with an umpire.
See, I don't understand this one because there was I don't remember seeing the incident.
I don't either.
Where did he touch him on the kneecap?
On the careless.
On the careless whispers. Because there was a passage of play where Sidey ran and I think the boundary umpire was backing back and they sort of bumped into each other. And Sidey gave him a bit of a pat on the stomach and then ran off. It was all a bit of a laugh. Technically, that's incidental contact, but that wasn't cited. So what did he do? Was it a bit of a squirrel grip?
It's going to be one of those ones.
Was it a horsey bite that he gave him?
No, I imagine it's going to be one of those ones
Chinese
where
burn.
The umpire's backed out of the ball up, and he said, "I'm going this way," and he's told him, and McCreery's run into him anyway. So that's what I'm guessing it is. I didn't say it.
Maybe McCreery went wrong.
If you look at like saying careless, it's like you're penalising people for accidents, for stuff that really has no ramifications. It's not like McCreery cleaned him up and he's out for 12 weeks or anything. Fuck, you got 36 players on the field and about 15 umpires nowadays.
And you can't dodge them all.
In the heat of the moment, there's like been incidental contact and you get fined for that, which is fucking ridiculous.
I did see a training that they have those yellow poles that they run in and out of. I mean, the umpires are about as effective as those poles, so maybe that's what they're doing at training to try and get them to recognise the yellow immobile object is something you have to dance around.
That's a shocker.
It's just that much shit came out of my mouth then. It wasn't funny.
I was waiting for it to finish. Carlton lost today to Melbourne after being 7 goals up.
They were 43 points up or something at one stage. And they lost by 23, I think.
22.
So 22. So it was a 60-odd,
Yeah.
65, 66-point turnaround. I did watch. I was watching the Japanese Grand Prix. They held that in Japan.
Really?
Yeah. I was watching that, and I saw the texts from the boys and stuff that had got down to a point, and the race had just finished. So I flicked over and watched the last 5 minutes or so, and geez, that was a capitulation and a half.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Max Gorn, brilliant performance. Josiah Pickett was magnificent.
Yeah, no, he looks...
Fritsch was good for the first time in 2 years. It's amazing that they lost Clayton Oliver and Petrarca, and that's the sort of performance they put in. They obviously said we're going to go back to the draft. In terms of Carlton, so they've lost Curnow, Silvani, and the Koenig. And
Owies.
Yeah, and they're probably in a stage where they're going to have to do a mini rebuild.
A mini one?
Well, I mean, I don't know where their list is at, because it depends who you speak to, but would you go and just try and poach someone like a Cripps for a couple of years?
How old is he now?
He's about 31.
Like, you get 2 years out of him for sure, but you'd want to be in contention, wouldn't you, to get someone of that quality? Unless you're looking at a mentoring type role for the rest of the mids.
Well, we're seeing Collingwood's, that's the way they treat the list management. Mm-hmm. It's bring guys in for a couple of years, and if it doesn't work, or rejuvenate through the draft. I mean, they've done it under McRae. They've done it constantly. They traded that first rounder instead of getting Nick. They got a couple of picks in the 20s. They brought in Lipinski. They've brought in Schultz. They've brought in Houston. Brought in Membry. Brought in Buller. So, like, their thing is, we're not going to bottom out on this stage. We're just going to keep trying to remain competitive, like Geelong have done for the last 15 years.
How many flags that net them?
Exactly. So it's like, it hasn't really netted great success, but look at someone like Carlton, who's probably going to have to go backward. Some of those older players, like
I think they've already got the going backward part down pat.
But they're going to consciously now just say, well, that's it. We have to rebuild again.
Geez, it'd be... I mean, sorry to stop there, but it's a bit of fucking pill to swallow for your blue supporter, isn't it? Because you've done this now 67 times.
I think
you think we remember we were at the end of towards the end of the 23 final series. Was it that year we were panicking we might play them in the grand final?
Yeah, the prelim.
Yeah,
they got to the prelim.
Yeah, and fuck, it's been a bit of a trajectory downwards rather quickly since then.
Yeah, I mean, look, whether it's Voss or the whole coaching staff, I think they had the list to potentially win the flag. You got like a great spine in Wiedering, Curnow, Mackay. But their game plan, when we said it for years, it's Voss coaches them like Buckley. It's just crash the pack, win the hard ball, kick it, and do it all over again. And that's it. And just keep the frantic pressure up. And if you can do that, we'll win. And I think having Cripps and Curnow in there really appreciated them further than they should have been. Because they sort of really remind me of the Buckley teams prior to 2018. Like, one week you see this great performance, go, oh, fuck, this is great, we'll turn the corner. And then they just lose to the bottom four side. So I think they fucked that up. But I think they had the list. Like, if McRae had gone there, I think they would have won the flag with that side. But the thing is now, they are going to go backwards. So they've traded out, let Mackay go, and they've got some draft picks. Voss will no doubt go at some point, and they'll say, okay, we're going to start over like Melbourne. We're going to go backwards to go forwards. Would you look at, like, anyone else there? I mean, Wiedering. So I'm not saying these players specifically, but they could be a potential place to grab someone. Mackay.
Yeah, I think Mackay would do my head in. Yeah, when the game there was to be potentially come back at, he sent it straight to the point post. I think that sums up a lot of his career.
That's pretty ideal for Collingwood.
It's not really an achievement. How old's Wiedering?
Wiedering, I think, would be 27, 28.
Yeah, see, that'd be the one I'd go for. I mean, it doesn't seem to be that many quality defenders coming up each year to be poached or anything like that. That if you could get him, you'd be serviceable for quite a few years still. But it all comes down to where we're at the end of the season, though. What are you drafting for? Are you drafting for continuing to be a mid of the table thing, or do you want to see some development? Because we're not getting it out of those young players that are out running around the VFL. None of them look like they're likely long-termers.
But what we think compared to what Collingwood thinks are two different things. They seem to have that attitude, let's just keep rebuilding on the run. Let's keep bringing guys in to keep us competitive. And if you're there, you're a chance. Now, look, I don't agree with it. You don't agree with it. I would have went backwards myself. I would have. You didn't even have to go backwards, going back to 2022. You could have done exactly what we've done, while also going back to the draft. Because if you look at the players they brought in through the draft back then, there was like all these 20-something picks. It's like, well, none of them were necessarily that influential. You got Tom Mitchell for very little because of the Oliver Henry trade. Lipinski you got for fucking nothing. So you could have still done those, but gone to the draft. But the ones like Schultz and that, you could have kept your draft picks and gone, higher. I mean, the Houston one I've said, it's you traded Noble to Gold Coast and you traded a couple first rounders for Houston. Maybe they tried it and it didn't work, but like I would have just went to Gold Coast and said to Raul, "Do you want to come down? Gold Coast, you want Noble? Here's 2 first rounders. How much more do you want for this guy?" This is before he's won the Brownlow and all that. Everyone knows what a gun he is, but like you could have probably done it at that time, or I don't know, maybe you couldn't have done it, but you could have put that to him and gotten something that we really needed, which is a midfield.
Yeah, what did Essendon hold off for merit? Didn't they knock back?
They knocked back 3 first rounders, but their logic was Hawthorn's going to finish top 4 probably for 3 years.
So they're valueless.
So it's going to be 17, 18 or something, So, I mean, I appreciate what Essendon did. I actually really like that. Essendon just said, fuck you. If you don't give us something way over, you're not getting him. So it sends a good message through that shit list. It's like, hey, you're here to stay. So I don't mind when clubs do that. But in terms of Collingwood's list identification and their needs, it's not great. And, getting Membry and that, I found it really ironic that they got Membry, but they let Myercheck go. It's like, well, maybe you should just get Myercheck and not sign Membry.
Yeah, I think obviously there was question marks about the durability of Myercheck this year, but I mean, time will tell how he goes in Melbourne.
I don't necessarily mean we should keep him for 9 years, but I'm just sort of saying we keep bringing in experienced players. So that seems to be their methodology. They're not going to go backwards. They're not going to go back and go, hey, let's go shit for 2 years and get 2 or 3 first rounders. Let's not try. I mean, as it is too. You go back to 205, 206. They traded Taran out. They got pick 8 and Paul Medhurst. And that pick became Ben Reid. So they traded out players and they got some pretty good stuff back in return. Now, I just don't see who they could trade now to get like a top 10 pick outside of the obvious ones like Nick and Steene.
No. I mean, really, if you had the benefit of hindsight, you would have probably moved on Bobby and Darcy after the grand final.
Darcy's not hindsight. I would have fucking did that. I told you I would have done that.
But at the time, you would have looked at it and thought that fucking Bobby's got so much upside that you would want to retain him.
No, Bobby I would retain. I mean, until all.
But I'm talking in terms of what you had for value for picks.
Yeah.
I think we would have got 2 first rounders for him. You would have got 2 probably first rounders for Darcy because they're at the peak of their powers at that time. That's when their value was going to be.
Yeah, but Darcy's an interesting because the second half of 23 he was shit, and Cox had replaced him pretty much as the first ruck. Now, last year you probably could have traded him for at least the first rounder, and the bullshit they changed in the second and third round. And Bobby's value would have obviously drastically dropped last year. Bobby, obviously, if you did trade him after the grand final, but Bobby is exactly what that side needs. I mean, you need him back in now. Like, if outside of Nick and Steene, Bobby's the one I think would be the most important player to put outside.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's talk that he's ahead of the curve in terms of where his preparation and fitness is at.
How many comebacks? How many times have we heard he's back at the club?
No,
he's training.
I can only go by my vapid self-belief, and hopefully this time it's true. But let's just pretend it is for a second.
I hope it is. Yeah, I hope it is.
You wouldn't let him linger if he can run out a game in the VFL 2 weeks in a row. I'd have him straight back in the final.
Oh, totally.
As a forward, you're not clocking 20 Ks a game or anything like that, but he can still. I think the benefit of having 5 of the bench now is you can manage longer time off the ground to get some peak fitness, that burst fitness back into them to come out, have an impact for 5-10 minutes, and then come off and rest again as you manage their ability to increase that load. That'll give you some benefit in doing that, and I'd get him back in there as soon as possible. Because, as much as he's all done our head in, we fucking need him incredibly highly.
Oh, look, like I said, he's probably the 3rd most important player.
Chief make these as well?
No. Yeah.
He fucking should.
The one thing, the biggest concern with Bob is, if you believe the media said he's lost so much conditioning, he's not even a proposition for the first time.
Is that why his hair's all frizzy?
Yeah, that's really bad. So he's lost so much conditioning, he's going to take like a half a year to just get back to where he needs to get to be.
Yeah, well, let's wait and see. I think he looked pretty good when he hasn't come back with weight on or anything like that. I leave here and I come back 20 kilos heavier. But we're different footballers, Bobby and I. Look, I'd be keen to get him in there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
But I brought that up because of the media speculation. You're a big fan of the speculation surrounding Nick Daicos going to Tasmania?
I hope we hear about this every fucking day for the next 3 years.
100%.
100%. Here's a beer. No, and the thing is, what the media seem to fucking forget out of all these scare stories is he's fucking contracted for another 3 years. He doesn't have to make a fucking decision now. Why does he have to make a decision now? I'm sure the club will do their best to extend him in the next year or two, especially if he wins a Brownlow or something this year. But he's come out and he said he's happy at Collingwood. Well, he fucking has to be. He's obliged to turn up for the next 3 years. Contracts work like that still, don't they? Sometimes. Yeah.
But, I mean, there's no reason he should be re-signing now because he'd be re-signing for unders.
No, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, look, we've got this supposed war chest we're going to spend at the end of the year. There has to be an optic look that you can't bring anyone in and put them on more money than probably arguably the best player in the competition.
Steene.
No, you're going to have to save money for Steene after this week.
But you said this a while ago.
Steen's going to sign his name with a dollar sign at the front.
Like young Frankenstein. No, you said this a few weeks ago. You bring Butters in, you're paying him to Nick's 1.2. You have to now inflate Nick. And now you've got two players taking up so much of the salary cap. They obviously need quality to come in, but they need to be realistic about it because Nick, as he gets older, naturally is going to want more money. He's going to probably have another All-Australian jumper at the end of this. He potentially is going to have a Brownlow. Why would he sign now when he could turn around and go, well, this is what I've won. Now give me an extra whatever it's going to be to extend it for another 2-3 years. But yeah, we've never, I don't think, ever really had a player of Nick's caliber. We've had some guns like Bucks, Nick's dad and all that. But Nick's sort of almost on another level now in terms of his potential to do whatever it is. And unlike Buckley, Buckley's one of the best players I've seen, but the media would have never told you that. I remember Mike Sheen used to have his top 50s in the Herald Scum every year pre-season. And it wasn't until 2004 that he finally put fucking Bucks at number one, or at the end of 2003.
And he said it was a typo.
Yeah, he always used to have Bucks, Hurd, and Voss for years. And his question mark on Bucks, which was fucking ridiculous, was we don't know what a sort of finals performer he is. And it's get fucked, you prick. That doesn't stop you rating players who don't make finals. So Nick gets that appreciation. There's wankers on social media who complain he gets too much appreciation. So we've never sort of really had a player that's excited the media, the fraternity, the way Nick does.
Well, it's a twofold thing. It's Collingwood, and Collingwood forces people to click because we love to be infuriated by these opinions. And we generate revenue as a result of our incessant need to keep going back to this material. And they keep feeding us. It is just trolling by pure and simple definition. And they're not sending that article out there for Frank, who follows Carlton. It's aimed at us, and there's a lot of us. And trigger. Suddenly you're making a lot more money out of these articles, and they'll have the metadata across this about what generates them the most revenue and income and advertising potential, and taking pots at Collingwood's the easiest one of them all.
I think this week it'll be dominated by Carlton.
Well, see, but that's humour. That's not trolling. That's just generating laughs.
On the comment, Sean Milson 557. Halfway through the last episode, and now I'm really depressed about our list and our future. Lol. I agree with what you guys are saying, though. Thank you, Sean.
He's seen Steene now, so that should make him a little less depressed.
Costa Vassilos, very worrying times. The team is average, unfortunately. If the team was elite, we wouldn't give a shit about the new rules of the umpiring. Anyway, thanks to the Rant guys and thanks to the content. Thanks, Costa.
He sounds like a wog. Do you think he likes rakia?
Yeah, Greek name. He'd definitely know what it is.
You can get it at cabinadistilleries.com.
Kieran Kelly 959. We'll make the finals next year.
Will we?
I hear they're changing it to the top 16.
Yeah, that wouldn't be far off the fucking
Nice
place.
work, AFL.
Seriously, are we doing the wild card thing this year? Is that?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Do
Do you know what it reminds? It's like when kids' sport has finals, but they split the fucking group into the bottom half and the top half, and they all get to play a final structure, so they get to experience it. Which it all sounds nice, but the thing is, I reckon that motivates you more than anything is missing out and wanting to taste success that's correctly earned. Why the fuck would you finish 9th and think, well, we deserve our shot?
Yeah, totally.
It's just a fucking money spinner.
Well, why would you go above and beyond to try and get your team into the finals if you're going to fucking play finals regardless? It's like, where's the drive? Where's the need to perform if you're going to give them that as a reward anyway? Yeah. Mekatania 4984. What are all these numbers?
It's like 8675309.
McStay to be trialled as a key defender.
Has he done something guilty?
Yeah. Is Jed Walter someone who could be poached by from Gold Coast? So Jed Walter's the number 2 pick who Gary
says you can't get a game.
You can't get a game in front of...
Gary can't get a game.
Gary never gets a game.
He's on the game.
Yeah. Yeah, Jed Walter's someone I'd really look at. Now,
Let me tell you a story about a man named Jed.
Yeah. He's exactly what they need. He's a beast.
Is he?
Top draft pick, key forward. I don't know what you'd offer him.
What fucking use will we have for one of those?
Well, that's a good point. I don't know what we'd be able to offer Gold Coast other than whatever draft pick we have this year.
Can't we send John Noble back again?
We should have asked for Noble.
Maybe they're looking for Dan Houston.
I'd love if they actually pinpointed him as being someone with genuine talent and future who could be a long-term part of this club.
Would you? Rather
than what I expect them to do this year is go to Melbourne and trade a pick for fucking Mychek.
We wouldn't, but would you trade to Goey?
Yeah.
For Jed Walters?
Yeah.
Straight swap with 3 first-rounders back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one. What they really need players around Nick. Now, the fucking problem with the Goey is... When's he ever been All-Australian? When's he ever given us that 1 year? He has games which are fucking great, like that prelim in 2023.
Oh, he's a fucking great finals player.
Yeah, he performs in clutch moments. Now, if you knew, now internally obviously going to have a better idea, but if you knew, hey, we're going to get 4 years out of this guy as an elite midfielder, I'd go, fuck yeah, keep him. You don't want to get rid of him because the thing we're constantly crying for is to protect Nick with other players. But if he's going to be... this sort of guy where Gold Coast says, we can play him like as a forward and with pinch hitting in the midfield and we'll give you Walter, I'd probably go, yeah, you're going to have to do that. But I think we'd be paying unders in that case. I mean, the Goey, you always hear about, and you mentioned this last week, you always hear about how good he's training, how great he looks this year and all that sort of stuff. But fuck, for someone with such talent, the amount of times he can just go totally missing.
Yeah, he cruises through games.
You know, and that's the annoying thing with him is you want a guy like, okay, so I'll use Nick, and obviously Nick's, again, a freak, but Nick on a shit day will still get 25 possessions and still do a couple of really worthwhile things, whereas the Goey's gap between his best and the worst is a chasm. It's just huge. You know, he becomes anonymous. And McStay as a key defender, he might have to be, but I don't think he has the football intelligence to really play as a key defender.
No.
My friend Johnny made a really good point last year where they said they said they were training. McStay was training with the defence, and yet he never played there. So were they trying him there and going, this guy's just not getting it. We can't put him in defence. He's just going to be a liability. I tried him in the VFL defence. Sergio Montoro, XE8 or spot on with your review as well as Darcy Cameron. The ruck rule clearly favours the tall ruckman. So what do we do? We get rid of Cox. Absolutely baffling. We actually got rid of Cox though before the rule was introduced. So that was actually a strange thing.
No, and obviously the thought there was that Cox was going to stop the development of Steene or Villaro Smith to get games because I think the fallback for Flyers, he doesn't really change the side around all that often. He'll go back to that same well every time. that Cox would have held someone back. And obviously Cameron with the new contract, Cox was expendable.
Ashton Prism.
Cox in, flaps out.
Ashton Prism. 4-liners disaster. McStay and Merriby can't be in the same team.
Well, they shut you up this week, didn't they? Who said that?
Ashton Prism. While I want games in the West, what change in the dynamic would he bring? Alan can run, but can he play football? I think we're finding out he can't. Steele was okay. Need to be a top 10 pick to get midfield partner for Nick or get Butters. Well, I'd love to get Butters, but geez, just don't see how we'd get it done.
I tell you, Port lost again today, didn't they?
Lost to West Coast.
I think Butters would be probably having a suitcase packed next to his front door at the moment.
Well, they're an interesting one too. Where do they see themselves at, Port?
In the shit.
But are they going backward to go forward, or are they bottoming out?
Well, I don't know. I don't think. Could you afford to do that in a 2-horse town? Especially one as parochial as South Australia.
Adelaide did it for 4 years. That was shit. They're still shit, but I mean, for 4 years they were really shit. So they got like some young talent in there with what's his name, Rosie and Horn Francis, and that other guy, Mark Williams. He's in there. That young Nathan Buckley.
So he's
Russell Johnson.
He's a restricted free agent, isn't he?
Yeah.
So we have to find some form of compensation, or does it get provided?
No, the compensation's provided. We just have to
up the ante.
They can just match whatever offer we make.
So Gold Coast come out and put the cards on the table that no matter what's offered to King, they're going to match it.
Yeah.
At the expense of everything. So if you went there and offered him $10 million a year, they'd have to match it.
I wonder how.
And then you destroy him.
I wonder how strategic clubs are. Like, does Collingwood say, "Hey, we're going to offer Ben King $2.5 million a year for 1 year," and Gold Coast are like, "Oh fuck, now we have to match this, but we are going to match it," and then that creates such salary cap pressure and a squeeze on other players that then you can go to a Jed Walter and go, "Hey, we're going to offer you $1 million a year." They can't afford to pay you anymore.
It wouldn't be that simple, would it? Surely.
I mean, it'll be a lot more.
Because when you're the Nepo baby, you'll have some sub-clause in the contract that says, But
I'm wondering if clubs think like that. Like, if clubs think, let's put a squeeze on the player we'd love to get, but we know we're not going to get out of it, but it's going to cost them to keep him.
You'd surely see that fairly often happen, but I don't think it's ever happened that way, has it?
I remember people said it happened years ago, fucking in 2004 when we got Blake Carosello, because we put a squeeze on Brisbane and they could no longer afford to pay Carosello, and he came to Collingwood. We weren't going for Carosello, we were going for someone else. Can't remember who it was, but yeah, just I don't know. I'm interested in how do they do this? Do they think that three-dimensionally? Michael
Gadinsky,
he heard 8116. Not sure if you're aware of it. Your post isn't posted on Spotify or Apple.
I didn't think we did.
Thanks to someone.
I didn't think we did pronouns on this show.
Yeah. I don't want to take blame. I was posted and I put it. Magpie Army Chronicles. Happy for Checkers, but 3 years is asking too much. History says he'll break down. Steene is the man. A better mark and ruckman than Bullerman and McStay, but Fly hasn't developed the youngster into a top 23 starter, so it won't happen. Machiavelli 99. My check only won 2 years like he got at Melbourne.
His ability to see into the future didn't last long.
Mark Kira. I would honestly prefer West Harrison or even Howe on the side instead of McStay. Buller can take over ruck. Not like McStay does much in the ruck anyway, or just in general. Yeah, I totally agree. I think they have an indebtedness to McStay because of the circumstances of bringing him over and him missing the flag. I think they just feel...
Oh, it's fucking bad luck now. You can't keep doing that forever. I want to see games get put into West.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too. Or even House. I like the look of him
too.
Yeah. Make Pius X. McStay was woeful. Frampton was static. This is last week. Schultz tried hard. Forgettable night. And Machiavelli says Buller is a turkey. I can't.
Hey, fella, you're a turkey.
What a movie. Ever seen a sandwich? I have.
Well, they come up with this stuff.
Yeah. Have argued for years the club thought it was clever by trading away its future first round for 2021. Turns out it was pick 2, and they got very little for it. They gave it to GW for picks in the 20s. Yep, totally right. Collingwood could have had a bloke called Finn Callahan next to Nick, or at the very least, extra high and picking Nick's draft. Collingwood is obsessed with spending future picks, which we've talked about. Club never holds on and sees what they actually worth and then spend them. Worse, we spend future picks not on young players, but guys who are already 27, 28. So Houston, Schultz, Trelaw, good players for sure. They are 3-year players, not players for the next decade. How does this build sustainable success? Net result, we scrounge around trying to find diamonds in the rocks on the 40s and 50s of the draft. No offense to these players, but you're lucky to get 1 out of 10, 15 success rate.
I think the hard thing is look, it sounds simpler than it is, but you look at sides like North and Essendon that are still struggling to improve, and they're both carrying about 8 or 9 first rounders in that side. You just wonder how good the quality of the first round consistently is these days in the draft. Obviously, you stand probably your first 5, 6 picks are genuinely probably going to be better than average chances to be good, but then it seems to be a little bit risky beyond that about how well they're going to turn out.
I think it also depends. Like, I mean, North Melbourne, how many coaches they had in the last 5 years? I'd hate
all of them, I think.
Well, it's pretty much true. And I've always said that, like, a lot of his young talent. So you get certain people like Nick, like Scott Pendlebury, who I think would have been good wherever they went. But then you get players and you think, geez, you ended up at that club and they had coaching turmoil and shit players around you. You probably never became the player you should have, but if you'd ended up down there, you would have been a great player. So I don't know, it could be sort of but like I totally agree. We keep sort of, like I said, trading into, hey, let's go for short-term rejuvenation. I mean, you look at players like, so we talked about Cripps. I mean, how many other sort of aged midfielders do you think we might go for in the next year or two as part of the strategy of trying to keep up and competitive?
Probably all of them.
Yeah. I mean, is there any others around? I mean, Merritt, maybe you look at him. Maybe Essendon goes, yeah, well, give us a first rounder. We'll take like a top 10 first rounder.
I can think of one.
Who?
I can't say.
Really? Tell me.
Well, you know.
No. Would he be good for the culture?
It would be the culture club.
Would he be good for father-sons? No, Nick 35. You mentioned speculating about trading Nick to Tassie for a bunch of top 10 picks. What do you think would be acceptable trades for Nick and Josh? For Nick?
I think 10 top.
No, seriously,
10 picks.
What would you do?
This year and next. You'd have to have a minimum of 3 very, very, very early first rounders, but you'd want some assuredness that also that the year you're letting him go, that there is some replaceable talent coming in that next draft, if you know what I mean, that you've done your homework.
Yeah, I would be looking at potentially 3 top 10 picks, but I would potentially, if you're going to trade Nick to Tasmania, and they're going to get the allocation of players and pre-zones or what the fuck they do, like GWS and Gold Coast, I would actually be looking at those guys first, because potentially, because there's going to be a bunch of guys, I don't know, I'm assuming they're doing it the same way they did Gold Coast and that, where they get a bunch of players even before they get to the draft. That means those guys in the draft are sort of actually not as high as they would have been if those other players were also in the draft with them. So, pick 5 might have been pick 15. So I'd actually be looking at the players they already have pre-zoned and shit like that. So is there anyone in there who could really fucking we just bring straight in? Which is where I think we fucked up years ago when Buckley was dismantling the list. We were bringing in picks during a period that, the expansion teams were getting a lot of the best players. Whereas I think we should just look at the expansion teams and go, well, who could we take from these teams that might actually help us? So with Nick, 3 top 10s at least. But also, I just look at the other talent they have at their disposal. But I don't think Nick will go. I think all the panic and that.
I don't think so. I was talking to my 2 sons about Nick because they're obviously buying into the trolling, and being younger, they're obviously they don't want their favourite player to leave either. And I think the thing is, and we were talking about other players that left the club about how the supporter base generally treats them. Like he said, if Nick left, would you boo him? Well, I'm not a racist, mate. But I can get where the sentiment is do you think there'd be hate against Nick? And I think there genuinely would be, especially if he left for money. The supporter base would view that as a betrayal of Collingwood and a mercenary act. And I cited examples of, like players like, he was asking about Dale Thomas because they mentioned it. in something we were watching the other day about that he played 100 games each. They didn't know that for Carlton and Collingwood. And he goes, well, yeah, how did you find us? I would never have thought anything ill ever of Daisy. He's one of my favourite players. Circumstances were what they were and he left. I could never hate him. Same with Mio. They've done too much to ingrain the love in you that you couldn't be aggressive to them. Though I think if Nick left, that would be a different ball game. Now, where that then has that knock-on effect is I've heard a rumour that the Daicos like making money.
It was, of course they do.
If you cut yourself off from a fucking guaranteed revenue stream for the next 30, 40 years on talk circuits and Collingwood dinners and come back to my place and watch Game of Thrones with me nights, you just clean up for life. You're never going to get that exposure moving to Tasmania. You're never going to get that level of potential earning capability. And I don't think the Daicos is stupid enough to risk that. So I think while he should well and truly be recompensed for his value, I think that'll be with us.
With Daisy, I mean, there was extenuating circumstances of him leaving. So that was another part of depends who. I mean, I don't boo players because it's like,
well, you're not a racist.
What is a fucking vaudeville? You're booing people?
I think they hiss them as well.
They just call them the C word and move on. Jesus.
Do you know, maybe they should make them wear those curly moustaches too.
They should. With players who are making $1 million, whatever, and maybe this is because I've never made $1 million, but I don't get the fucking greed. If I'm making like 50 grand and someone said, here's 200 grand for this job, would you go? I go, yeah, fuck yeah. That's 4 times as much as I'm making. If I'm making 850 grand, they say, here's $1 million. I go, well, fuck, I'm making 850 grand. I'm not going to be pretty happy with that. And as you said, you're going to get, if you stay at the club, which is where I think Gary Ablett fucked up with Geelong, if you stay at the club, you're going to get taken care of
coteries,
long after. Yeah.
Business contacts, there's all sorts of things that are going to look after your future.
Yeah, so, it's not they're not contracts you have to make to take care of the immediate future because you're making enough money to take care of it now, but there's going to be splashback later on. I find it interesting with Daisy when you hear him talk. He's really quite clearly a Collingwood man. He's not a Carlton guy, even though he played 100 games for Carlton. Did I tell you I saw Ange Chris do at his restaurant?
No, I think you did.
I forgot what it was
You didn't
called.
tell them though.
Yeah. But he's got the 39 jumper up because that was his jumper. And I said to him, you're a Daisy Thomas fan.
Did you bark at it when you saw it?
No. And he just laughed. He goes, he must be one of his friends to make that joke. Oh, no, I'm a Collingwood man. He goes, yeah. But I'm always a little bit bemused by greed to that extent when you're making so much already. I find it just sort of like, isn't that enough for you? Fucking what do you want?
I think the thing is also too though for players and generally sportsmen is your time to earn is very small relative to your life. There's obviously some that make it as coaches or some that'll make it in the media and that, but that's still a small percentage. That you can understand why they want to strike while the iron is hot and maximise their earning potential because it can genuinely set you up for life. You can start a business here, buy a house here. If you're thrifty with your money, you can be debt free at the end of your career. And I think that's what we all aspire to be. Well, it used to be until it looks like the government wants to take it all off of us for their fuck ups.
But again, there's a guys making tons as it is. So, and as you said, once you retire, you're going to be making appearances. You're going to be known as a one club player. You're going to be making more by staying at the club after you retire, and those opportunities aren't going to be there if you fuck off and play.
That's exactly the way I see it.
Yeah. So playing Brisbane this week, they've been just sort of getting along at the moment. They beat the Midas and Kilda, that top 4 prospect. What are your thoughts? Playing them on the Thursday.
Easter Thursday, yep. I'll be over in Adelaide for the annual
Easter Thursday
basketball start of the tournament thingy over there. So watching it on the TV. It's been last year was enjoyable. I think we got beaten the year before, but not by much. 3 we beat.
No,
We've generally been pretty good. No, actually, we did
24 we beat them both times.
Yeah, and then 23 I think they beat us.
They beat us
early on the year,
but not the one that mattered.
Who's laughing now? Lions.
Yeah,
with your 2 fucking flags.
We stopped their 3 in a row.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They stopped ours as well.
Not really.
Well, they beat us last year in the prelim.
What stopped us was Buckley. So what's your tip?
Look, I think it's a game that can go either way, obviously. I don't think at the moment there's a clear favourite. The Lions, I think, they had a good comeback against the Aints, but the Aints, were looking like they should have probably beaten them. But at St Kilda, I think you just get used to the disappointment.
But it wasn't that close a loss. I mean, Brisbane won pretty comfortably in the end.
Well, yeah, but I think up until 3/4 time, it was neck and neck throughout the game. So, I didn't watch the game, but from what the boys were saying is that St Kilda just basically stopped. And, I think maybe that flattered Brisbane's performance as well. I do think they'll obviously want to win on their home deck because they have a lot of empty chairs there usually. And we go up there and populate quite a few of them this time of year. So they'll want to have a good showing, I think, and probably will try very hard to win this. We'll be down more. Yeah, who else?
So Moore's out for 4 weeks and Pendles will be rested.
Pendles, yeah. So, Pendles is always out of contention, as you said, anyway.
Yeah.
Which probably means that Parker and Allen will come back in.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll play that Cochrane. Maybe he'll debut.
Look, I don't think Parker was that bad. I think, in terms of...
I wouldn't have dropped him.
No, so I think he'll come back in and he'll probably play defensive. At least with Howe back, you've got another tall down there. The Howe didn't really do much. But, that's perfectly excusable as well, considering, he's got old man disease in the legs and you'd be playing the caution card. But yeah, I'm probably considering that the cupboard's bare for defenders. I'm a little bit more comfortable with Howe in there than not being in there, if you know what I mean. Yeah, look, I think we'll just win. Just win.
I mean, it's interesting. Will they always plan to play Howe, or is he going to be rested, managed, or whatever? I think he'll win too, but I'd really like to see Cochrane brought in, and Parker. I keep sort of saying I'd love to see Parker play defence, and then Maynard or Quain moves up further up the field. Because we haven't really drafted any fucking gun midfielders or brought any in through trades, you got to find the answers within the list. And it's a real blue collar midfield nicker side. I'd like to see get a little bit better. I think McCreary's really struggled this year. He's had his moments, but geez, there's a long passage as he just disappears.
He was injured pre-season though, wasn't he? Wasn't he coming off something or a slow start?
Haircut.
Well, that should make him more aerodynamic, you would have thought, wouldn't you?
There was that one goal he was sort of running in. I think he tried to banana it because he didn't have a left foot. He's got pace, which we really need, but he just doesn't get enough of the ball. So I actually wouldn't mind if Long got suspended for a week or two, just to force him to make a change and see how that would look.
I don't think that'll happen this week, though.
No, it won't now, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't mind if their hand was actually forced.
I think the selections will be the McRae comfort selection.
Oh, totally. Tip. So you said we'll just win?
We'll win by 3 points.
Final thoughts?
We'll win by 5 now.
All right, cool. All right, so like, subscribe, drink Cabina, give Spook a tip.
And drink Cabina.
Yeah. And we'll see you out there.
That's not
the
a bad
first
shot,
time ever. Thanks, McStay. Later. Play it by ear. Wing it.
I'll do the welcome to the Collingwood rant, then I'll do the Carlton joke about.
We don't do welcome to the Collingwood rant until after the credits, so this is all humour. So
it is. Spook, you look thirsty.